All right, hey guys, it is Shauna McKenzie, and I am here kicking off our October Webinars Over Wine program through Best Kept Self. Best Kept Self is the place where self-starting women become their best kept selves, and we're honored to have you on our Webinars Over Wine call tonight, which does happen every month, like I said, so please keep an eye out for the next program and future programs. And the cool thing is that since we started this monthly program, we've only been featuring our collective members and their respective topics. So this month, I'm super excited to have our first guest host, Stephanie Wonderlin, who I'll be introducing here in a second, who's going to be on the call offering us this amazing and awesome content tonight. So first and foremost, some light housekeeping. One is obviously have your favorite wine or cocktail or drink of choice in hand, and Megan here, our personal stylist, has got me hooked up with a glass of what? Prosecco. And you're all, I almost thought about sitting here in a sequin gown today that arrived through Rent the Runway. I don't know if any of you have ever used that service, but I have a gala to go to tonight, so I had a little fashion show in the office. And I have this floor-length gold sequin gown that was my second choice, and I thought, what perfect situation to look like an Academy Award than sitting at my desk giving this webinar. But I'm not. I'm in practically sweatpants. So the second thing is submit any comments or questions in the right-hand sidebar. You can send them private to the presenter, which will go to Stephanie or myself, or talk to the group, which would actually be even better. So please chime in and chat. This is a webinar discussion, not a lecture, and we get way more out of having you guys engage with us than we do just talking to each other. So we really want this to be engaging. We want you to ask us questions that you really want to know the answers to. We are here to be fully transparent and candid about all the topics that we do webinars over wine for. And third, this is a recording, will be recorded, excuse me, and you'll get the email to the recording by tomorrow morning so that you can listen to all of this again at your own convenience, should you like. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce Stephanie Wonderlin. On the professional side here, her bio, she's a spokesperson and digital correspondent. She has been for several brands: Chevrolet, Cottonelle, Nike Women, GoPro, Hallmark. She's currently the client success manager at a company called Together Mobile and was named a Twitter powerhouse by Huffington Post. And anyone who's connected to her on Twitter knows how awesome she is on Twitter. She loves working with businesses and individuals on developing social media strategies, especially with video, which she rocks at. If you've been on her YouTube channel, you know that as well. And she's got, a pretty large following on YouTube, several thousand people that follow her there, as well as on Twitter. And she's based out of Austin, Texas, really cool city. With her and her husband, she's got a 5-year-old and a baby boy who's just born this past February. So needless to say, Stephanie is busy, busy, busy. Now, the cool thing about Stephanie and I is that we met through, actually, my husband. My husband was at a conference and met Stephanie and raved about how awesome she was. And then just through everything Stephanie was putting out there on Twitter, we connected. And that was probably, gosh, 3 to 4 years ago. And since then, Steph has become, I would consider, a good friend and definitely, one of my best internet friends that's been out there, and we've never met face to face. And that truly is a tribute to just how incredible and genuine her personal brand is and how well she does at building relationships that are solely based entirely online. So throughout tonight, like I said, I met Stephanie on Twitter and got to cultivate this great relationship. Don't forget that you can tweet both of us and Best Kept Self tonight throughout the show, and we hope you do. You can use the hashtag #WebinarsOverWine, and then our Twitter handles are in the right-hand corner. So I will now pass this off to Stephanie, and she will dive into the content. And as I said before, please talk to us. Give us a shout in the chat box and ask any sort of questions. So Stephanie, it is all you.
Well, thank you so much. I actually get really probably blushing with your introduction, so I greatly appreciate that. It was really, really sweet. As Shauna said, that's one thing that I think as we go through this presentation is that the coolest part about this whole thing is that we have never met. But again, it's the relationships that you build and everything that you're able to do through, the power of social media. And that's, really the biggest way that has helped me build this personal brand. But that's also one thing that, I really want to try to wrap everyone's head around is that, yes, social media is powerful and it's really the backbone of how all of this started, but yet you still have a lot of things that you have to do in person as well. So I'll just go ahead and start off. Shauna went ahead and described a little bit, but it's always fun to kind of hear a little bit more about how I got started and different things that happened behind the scenes. And so I kind of put up my, one of the professional photos. So it may have all started here with just that professional brand of, okay, who are you out there? Who do you want to be? Who do you want to be connected to? And so it all started probably about, 4 or 5 years ago. And this is when, gosh, probably even, now that I think about it, 6 years ago, that social media was really getting a start. I was working with a hotel management company, and I have a background with marketing and communications. I love technology. And so as social was becoming really large, I noticed that, hey, wait a second, all of these loves that I have, so that marketing and communication and technology, all 3 of those things can be combined into one with social media. And so I kept watching and saying, I have got to do something because this is just too cool, and it's so great with what companies can do. So, I really got started, and of course, I started out on Twitter and realized that I do need a place where I can send people to go. So, of course, that's when my website started, and I actually started out as wanting to do just talking about social and the different changes, and that was really fun and cool because there wasn't a lot of people talking about it at that time. And so I wanted to go, and I actually had I started thinking that video would be the place to go. And so I noticed there were not a lot of people talking about social. They weren't talking about it on video, and women weren't talking about it on video. So I thought, hey, here's a nice slot where I can slide in and kind of stand out from the crowd, because I'm just noticing that already you can just really get lost. So I had to notice where I could slide myself in to be noticed, and that was my place. So I started YouTube channel and thought it was really great. I started it, and I will just go ahead and say, if you don't think that you can do video because you're too scared to be in front of the camera, or you think you're going to look silly, I will just go ahead and put it out there that if you want something to laugh about later on and you're really, really bored, go through my YouTube channel and go to some of the first videos that I put out there. I guarantee that you will feel really good about yourself and think, wow, if she can do this, I can do this. So, and also please keep in mind that technology has changed over the years, so you don't have great as equipment as you do now. So
Stephanie, let me ask a question on that, because I did go all the way back today to look at some of the earlier videos, and they still looked, like really professional. I guess, what holds people back is maybe not necessarily that they can't do the video, but they're so freaked out that it's got to be, it's got to have maybe an introduction, and it's got to have a closing, and there's got to be professional lighting. Does that make a difference? Do you think that people should invest in either hiring someone, or do you think they can talk straight to their laptop?
I go back and forth on that one. The reason that I do is because, again, now, again, that was 5 years ago, and so of course now we can go back and laugh. But nowadays, with the technology that we have, the ability with even our phones, for crying out loud, are way better than some of the cameras that we had. So, and I say way, this sounds like it's so like 20 years ago. But anyway, all I would want to do is just say practice a couple times and, really take a look into what type of an image does it put off. Take a look at the background, take a look at how does the lighting look, how is my sound, because if any of those things are a lower quality, even though your content is really good, it just kind of puts that damper on the whole thing. And so I know a bunch of people that do it just via their laptops, or even sometimes even from their from their iPhone, and they have perfectly fine videos, and their content is great. They're doing a great job with it. So you do not need an entire production studio whatsoever. So don't get that in your mind either. So I would just pay attention to what's there, because it's completely possible now that you can create, a brand even just from your laptop.
Great.
So yeah, but just then fast forwarding, so I just, started out, and my brand has changed a ton over the years. Again, if you look back at my videos, I started with socialite marketing, because I thought, oh, this would be fun again, but then people started getting confused, thinking that I had my own company. And I'm like, no, it's just me. It's just by myself, not a company. But it was still gaining some traction, and the biggest things that I started to do is I was reaching out to the people that I wanted to surround myself with. And so my biggest, one of my biggest tips when people ask me different things on, ways that I got started, is you have to figure out where you want to be. Because if you, think about it this way, you're not going to get on a plane if you have no idea where you want to go, and if you know that the pilot has no idea where they're going to go. Who is going to actually join that pilot on that flight? Not a lot of people. And so you have to make sure that you have your goals outlined, because then it's one of those, write them down. I don't know, I do sometimes weird things where I talk to myself, as you're going and you're writing things down, and you're just kind of thinking things over. And so speak it into existence, write it out, have a, kind of a dream journal. And that is where you're going to make sure that you keep yourself aligned with what you want to do. So that's when I started doing more Stephanie Wonderlin and putting that out there. And I got noticed by a company here in Austin. So I was in Illinois at the time, and they had said, hey, we're looking for somebody to be a director of social media. So a small firm, so not a director in like a large agency or anything, but this was my big first opportunity to really work with other people on social strategy and planning. So that was my big ticket into social. So I loved it, and really once I got here, that was my other big part, is I had to network like crazy, because I'm in a new area. I am in a much larger city, and so that was the other part, is making sure that I really got myself out there. So just continuing on with everything that I was doing with videos and blogging, and really just trying to stay afloat with technology. So that's really business-wise. And then, of course, the other part of everything that I do online is also with my family. So as Shauna mentioned, I have 2 young boys. So Chase is 5, Carson is 8 months. So Drew and I definitely have our hands full, and this is something that I do share online. And this is a good mix of my brand, and this is a decision that I made in terms of how much do I share about my personal life. And so I'm not a complete open book like a lot of people have chosen to be. I definitely still keep some things under wraps. I want to, I know that I've already built that digital footprint for my children, so I also want to keep that in mind. I don't want to put out any embarrassing stories about them that will, come back to haunt them later. So I'm also careful with my children's digital footprint. So it's fun to talk about them, fun to put photos out and different things that we're doing. But again, it's making sure that I talk about myself and my family, but I still keep some things under wraps. So really starting out and trying to look, and everybody I know is kind of talking about what's a personal brand, and what does that mean? Does it just mean that you like to talk about yourself online? And so I found this, and I thought it was pretty interesting. So a personal brand is the total experience of someone having a relationship with who you are and what you represent as an individual and as a leader. So I loved it, but I thought, it's just really a mouthful. So I thought, well, I'll go ahead and give it the wonderful definition. And I really, when I talk, really just say that a personal brand isn't how you define yourself, but also how others define you. And that was something that, I think I really had to think about, is that you can sit there and talk about yourself all day long, but you have to take a look around and see the experiences that you are providing for other people whenever you're talking, whenever you are sending out articles. This is not just about you. It's how you are treating other people as well. So that is part of your brand. So we're all brands, and I think that social media allows us to present this out to people. And so you can brand yourself, but then again, you have to remember that others are doing it for you. And so you might not be very active on social, but maybe a coworker is, or maybe your sister, your just a friend. And so you don't realize that maybe they're tagging you in photos and they're talking about what you guys did, and they might tag you or maybe just say your name. This is another way that people are going to be branding you, even though you don't have control over what they're doing. So you just have to really remember that. And so again, if you want proof of the brand that you're putting out there, just go ahead and try it and Google yourself. See what you can find. This can be hard if you have a popular name, maybe Susan Smith, or just anything. This can be something that is a little difficult, and we can go over that coming up here in terms of maybe some different things that you can watch out for.
So this brings up a good point about owning your URL, your name as your URL. I mean, obviously, if your name is, Mary Smith or something incredibly common, that's probably going to be difficult. But I mean, if you don't own your name, domain name, you should get that tonight, like right now. Like, go ahead and do it. Just sign into GoDaddy and get your name right now, because what if someone, you like to think that nothing would ever happen, but what if someone claims that URL and is putting out content, and then the only footprint that's coming up for you is on this website under your name that someone else owns, So I think that should be definitely one of the first assets that you protect.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that, if you have somebody that, maybe that is happening to you right now because you do have a popular name, figure out different ways that you can help overcome that. So start working on, maybe a different way to use your name, and then start tagging it. And there's a lot of different ways. And so again, it's one of those, probably a quick personal thing that if anybody is going through that, let me know afterwards, and you can email me, contact me. I would be more than happy to jump on the phone with you and just kind of give some of those different ideas, because again, it can be different for everybody in terms of maybe the issue that they're having. So,
would you recommend that parents go ahead and buy the URLs of their children's names?
If anybody wants to test it, they can go to chasewonderlin.com.
Awesome.
Yep, and what we did is we purchased those. So there's Chase Wonderlin and Carson Carl. So those are all forwarded to my website.
Got it. Okay, so that's a yes. Just go ahead and get your children's URLs.
Yeah. And I mean, who knows? Twitter might not be around in 5-10 years. Who knows? But we went ahead. We claimed Twitter handles. We claimed, we did some things, and we already have their Gmail addresses. And I know Drew is just so sweet. He writes emails to all the time, and it's really hard. I hope that he cannot hear me, but it's really hard because I'll log in there to do some different things, and maybe just make sure that the account is active. And it's so tempting to want to go in there and read them, and I'll see the first preview, the line preview, and probably just makes me want to cry even seeing the first preview. So it's just great, and it's something.
Such a cool idea. That is a really cool idea.
So he can open up later and just read through whenever he wants.
That's cool.
Yeah. So again, it's just really paying attention to what all counts as your personal brand. And so I put it up as number one just because I'm going to stress all night that your network is so important, because it's going to help define what your personal brand is. It totally matters. Your area of expertise, even your body language, your clothing, whenever you're out in public. I know that the ladies at Best Kept Self would really appreciate that these types of things matter, because of course this is everything that they're also working on. And so again, online presence, obviously. So it's just all of these things encompass your brand, whether you are in person or whether you're just representing yourself online.
And let's clarify too, you might be getting to that, but just your story personally, I think what's really interesting to stress here is that So you just were putting out content online because you were interested in it. Like you didn't have the intention of necessarily starting your own company. I mean, you were just putting content out because you liked it, correct?
Yeah, and it was just like, all right, it was more than just I probably blogged a lot more than I do now. I had a little bit more time, I feel like. And I think things in your life have changed, and of course I'll definitely get to talking about that, is that your personal brand, it will never stay the same, and that's a good thing. And so you guys will notice later on that I talk about reinventing, and that's not a bad thing. And I'm not saying, hey, I'm Diana today, and then tomorrow I'm going to be Dina. So nothing like that, but it's just, making sure that, it really just starts to morph into everything that you're doing in your life. So,
But and to open opportunities. I mean, the fact that you were putting things out there and kind of building an audience for yourself just because you were so passionate about a particular topic, and you ended up getting a really amazing job opportunity because of that.
yeah, absolutely. It's just,
I just want people's eyes to be opened that if you're whether you're on the call and you're self-employed or you're in a career and you're having to protect your brand, like this isn't just for entrepreneurs. I mean, a personal brand is a personal brand, and even if potentially you might be looking to like do something that you are passionate about, or you're thinking about being self-employed, the fact that you can go online and kind of create an expertise area for yourself and build up a presence, and that could potentially lead to a job, which has happened, for Stephanie. I mean, I just think that that is absolutely incredible.
yeah, it's the opportunities that, just online and social have presented is amazing. So, even just with this, so there's power in that brand. Just goes right in line with what Shauna was talking about. Is you have the power to literally create anything that you want to. It takes a while. That's the other part. Is this is not an overnight type of thing. This has taken a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, for sure. And it's brands are very willing to work with influencers, and if you are not an influencer that matches with their brand, then they will not want to work with you. And the same goes for me. So if a brand talks to me and they would like to work together, if that brand does not match who I am and what I want to talk about and what I want to do, then even whether or not they're paying, sometimes it's hard to say no, but you can't be everywhere at once, and you have to make sure that you are representing yourself well. And so saying no is okay, and it's totally fine. So then the next part that I wanted to go over, and this is something that comes up, I feel, really, really often, of, okay, well, you have a really big personal brand, but yet you work for somebody else. So how do they feel about it? And thankfully, I've been in this situation multiple times where I've been really involved with startups here in Austin. And so, yeah, there's been a lot of jumps in my career, but it's more because there have been really great opportunities that have been presented to me because of my experience, as well as because of the brand that I've helped build and the expertise that they know that I have in those different positions. And so it gives the employer publicity and visibility online. And so again, if your brand is not matching with what they want to be put out there, then that's going to be a problem. And so I really think that that's the only time that it's an issue, when employers are like, hey, we noticed your online profiles, you're cursing a lot, you talk about how awful work is there a problem? So you have to really think about that. So not only are you representing yourself, you are now also helping to represent your employer. So it's going to build credibility, the engagement levels, because of course, if you are excited about what you're doing and you're wanting to talk about it, this is a great opportunity for your employer to be really excited that you're out there and you're helping spread the news besides them. So again, it's just adding a nice face to the organization as well. So then I wanted to put in here that there's Bosslady Benefits too. So if you own your own company, it's great if your company has all of their digital profiles, but then it's also helpful that you have your own personal profiles. And so I do think that in that sense, it is great to have a nice separation, because as your company, you can have different information that you're sharing out. Then of course, if you want to help grow that brand, I know this is something that Shauna is doing with Best Kept Self, and all of the ladies that are there. They all have their own personal brands, but yet they all help to really promote Best Kept Self as well. And so for Shauna, that's, it's this whole, like, I have my personal, and then I also have my my professional brand. And so as you can see, even just from her example, there's huge benefits in this.
And that can get complicated too. I know in the very beginning when I started my company, and it was Mackenzie Image Consulting, my Twitter handle was Mackenzie Image. It was not Shauna Mackenzie. And, I was years and years ago. I can't remember why I decided to do it that way. I mean, obviously I was trying to get more exposure for my company, but the reality of it is, if you're a one-woman operation like I was, people are hiring you for you. So if it's just you, I mean, I don't know. Stephanie, you weigh in on this. I think you can go either way. I think as long as you for sure, like if your Twitter handle is Mackenzie Image, it still needs to say Shauna Mackenzie as the actual name, so that they know it's me, and use your actual profile photo. Don't use your logo. But I mean, if you're a one-woman operation, one-man show, then I mean, people are hiring you for you. It should kind of have you at the forefront.
Yeah, and you have to really also pay attention to what's going to work for you. And so yes, I technically have my own business because I have Wonderlin LLC, because as I'm doing all these brand deals and some of these other things, I needed to make sure that I had everything set up as a business as well. And so whenever I had Tweetheart TV, and so we can go on about that, a little bit later, when that was my brand a couple years ago, where that was something, I started a Twitter handle for it, and I had a Facebook page for it, and that's great, but I just really realized that for me personally, again, a one-woman show, that didn't really work for me, because I just didn't want to have to handle my own personal brand as host of Tweetheart TV, and then I have to manage Tweetheart TV over here as another brand, when even though it's the exact same thing. And it didn't make sense to me that I had them separated, because Tweetheart TV, no matter what, is me and me alone. And so I figured that it started to confuse people, and again, it was just kind of hard for just one person to manage that and also manage everything else. So again, you have to make a personal decision for yourself, because that's the hard part about it, is because once you start that, and once you start promoting it and like, hey, join me over here at Tweetheart TV and all of this other stuff, well then you're sending people away from your own stuff, even though yes, it's still you. And that's something else that is still, hey, if you're not really active on those channels, it's a reflection on you.
Yeah.
So you have to really figure out where that balance is, and if you realize that that balance is not happening, then get rid of it, because otherwise it's going to in turn hurt you.
So would you definitely agree that if you're not going to be active on certain platforms, just don't do it at all?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So some of these things, this is where, hey, if you want to jot some of these notes down, here's some of the different areas where, I think I'll definitely give some different tips and tricks and stuff. And so when you're wanting to start, or even trying to figure out, hey, I'm already doing this, but I don't really feel like I have a good handle on it, what should I do? And so as I talked about it earlier, you have to figure out what your goals are. What do you value, and what are you passionate about? What motivates you, and what makes you remarkable? So all these things built, in this nice little circle, and the circle is just around your photo. You have to figure this out, because again, if you just keep kind of just every day, it's just a keep whatever, I'm just going to send out whatever article that I'm reading, and I have no passion for anything, but it's just a cute article that I was reading. It's not going to work for you, because somebody's just going to be, looking at it and just saying, okay, it's just, she's just reading the New York Times today or something. There's no point to what you're doing. And so, you have to realize that you need an elevator pitch for yourself. And so you have to figure out that if somebody says, hey, what do you do? Or what do you like to do? well, what's your answer? And are you going to be able to give that answer in a quick, 15, 30 seconds? And so, again, whatever you put out there, the people that you talk to, all of that is representing your own personal brand. And so I think I was kidding around with my husband the other day, and of course I think I was reading it somewhere, and I kind of laughed and it said, oh, somebody was saying the other day that you don't see Oprah hanging around with any slackers, do you? And so it was then the question of, you are who you hang around. And so again, it's true. If you think of, if you want to think of Oprah, if you want to think of, somebody like Miley Cyrus, there's a huge, huge difference, and it's all in the way that they are leading their lives and what they're doing and who they're hanging around. And so it's just, I think I laugh every time I say that, because I feel like I'm my mother talking again, where it's saying, make sure you know who you're hanging around with and who your friends are, because it reflects on you. And here I am, a long time later, saying the exact same thing to myself, to my kids, and even to other women, trying to really put their personal brand out there. And then the next one are 5 rules that I know I've kind of put out there for myself. So be diligent, be consistent, be relevant, be interesting, and be yourself. This is really something that, again, it's just like, if I could probably put these up on the wall, this would be something that I would actually like to do. And being yourself and being relevant and consistent, I mean, all of these things are something that, again, you have to think about as you are putting yourself out there on social media. One biggest thing is everything that's on the internet is permanent. Even if you delete it, somebody has possibly taken a screenshot of it. And it's fine to put your opinions out there, but you have to be able to back it up. And you have to remember that if I'm really upset at, maybe this flight attendant, or I'm really upset about my friend or even my spouse, anything, you have to really figure out, is it really worth putting it out there to everybody, and is it going to embarrass me later?
It's kind of funny, because I can think of certain people in my Facebook timeline who I definitely have generalized all the content they put out there, like they're the complainer, or
Right.
they're the depressed one. Like, it's consistent content that's always got the same kind of energy and feel, and just when you read it, it's like that's who that person is. And ironically, sometimes you meet them and, a lot of times they are kind of the same. And then sometimes you meet them and they're like totally opposite. And it's so confusing to know, what do you take to be real? Do you take that face interaction, or do you take these consistent Facebook updates that I see that aren't exactly the most pleasing? What do I do with that? Like, it kind of confuses the whole credibility of that person.
Right. And I mean, the whole point, that, I also think about is that, this whole personal branding has been, kind of lost the whole intention, as people, I think, are irresponsibly using social media as a platform to then, just build this quote personal brand and increase their relevancy, but they don't realize that, it's really more than that. And it's also being available to help other people. And whenever, we talk about, being yourself, I have this crazy example of somebody that, we had met online through, community manager chats and all of this, when, of course, everything was just kind of getting started, and you're meeting all these different people. And so anyway, she was just a delight to talk to, always really chatty, and, just really, really fun. And it's just kind of like, wow, every single time I put something out there, she's always responding. Like, this is just so fun. Well, then I finally got to meet her at a conference, and I was just completely blown away, because she wouldn't talk to anybody. It was really, really awkward. And that's the unfortunate side about social media, is that you can sit there behind a computer and be a totally different person. But then whenever you have to meet these same people face to face, you just completely like shut down. You are not the same, like almost awkward
Mm-hmm.
when you're around them. And so it's just one of those things where, again, just the whole point of you can be a totally different person, and that's something that you really have to make sure that you're being the same person as you would be face to face with someone, because they're going to notice the difference.
That is so much easier said than done, especially, I kind of think that social media is an introvert's game. I think that introverts thrive on it because, they can sit back, they can be in control of that dynamic and that conversation, being an introvert myself, honestly. And then you go out to a networking event, and I know for me being an introvert, even though I've done it for years on end, I still have to muster up that energy to go out and be super social and take the initiative to strike up conversations. And I mean, it takes a lot out of me. But being online is not. And so, like, to your point, I know and have to be very deliberate and I guess precise about that, because I would think kind of come across as being super outgoing online, and depending on how much I've been running, and then I've got to go to another social event, I have to be really careful that it's still matching up with what I'm putting out there. And so I think, my introverted friends that might be on the call, like, I cannot stress the importance of that, because it is very confusing when those don't match. And I know how difficult it can be to be that outgoing person when, you're just not sometimes, or it's awkward, or it causes a lot of anxiety for people. I mean, networking is not an easy thing for most people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I know I still, can walk in a room, and you have to make sure that, hey, you know what? I know that I can already do this. I know some of these people, and that's where, I think that social has really helped, because if there's an event that's coming up, this is your opportunity to really reach out to other people that are going to the event and build a relationship with somebody. And it's like, hey, I'm going to meet you out at the front door or what. It's just great, because then when you are originally thinking that you're going to go to an event by yourself and you don't know anybody, if there's already a hashtag that people are talking around, jump in and meet other people, because then by the time you get there, there's already people that you can hang around with, and then you do feel a little bit more comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Some of these other ones are some of the 5 steps that I think I've tried to pay attention to, just to make sure that what you're building is going to last. And so taking an inventory of everything that you have out there, and so making sure that everything matches. So you're going to develop a plan for yourself, and you have to craft your identity, because again, if you're going to be out on these different social channels, just make sure that they match. It's really easy just to make sure that, hey, are my photos looking okay? For the longest time, I actually made sure that all of my photos matched on the social platforms that I was active on, and that still holds true for some of them. But usually Facebook, like my photo on Facebook has the boys in it with me. And LinkedIn, of course, you want that one to be the most professional one. I just recently changed my Twitter avatar, just because I felt like I needed a change. But again, it still represents me, and I'm keeping them professional, because of course that's the image that I want to put out there.
So let's talk about photos real quick while you're on that subject, not to totally cut you off. But photos. So let's say that you are just, you don't have your own business, and you work for a company, and you're on just Twitter maybe for fun, or you're on Facebook, primarily for fun or networking. But, do you need the professional looking photos for those, or what's kind of your rule there in terms of photos and being professional or not, and who should have the really professional ones and who doesn't need them? Or do you think everyone does?
So I'll take a step back, and I know that the definition of professional photos can be, oh, I had them taken by a photographer, we had lighting, we had all of this other stuff, maybe then he sent them to me after he edited them. That doesn't have to happen. If you have a really good photo of yourself, and the thing that I like to remember is on Twitter, make sure that it's it's a close up of your face, because if it's too far back, whenever you're going through and you're looking at the Twitter timeline, it's kind of like, oh, is there a little person in there, and you can't really see who it is.
Yeah.
Whenever you have somebody that has, a full, your face is taking up the majority of the square, then it really helps with I'm going to put a face with this personality that is behind this Twitter handle. So, I think the number one rule is, how do you want to be noticed? Are you going to have cleavage hanging out? So is that going to be something that, I'm sorry, I get the whole thing of, women get upset, like, my eyes are up here. But if you put it out there, what do you think people are going to look at?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have to really just, remember that. So what do I want to be remembered for? Do I want my girls to be remembered instead of my smile? Was completely, it's completely up to you. And so going back to the whole quote, professional photo, just make sure it looks good, that it represents you really well. If you feel good about the photo, that you like how you look in it, then I guarantee it's just the same thing with clothes. If you are enjoying what you're wearing, then you're going to have a lot more confidence whenever you walk into a room. But if you feel like my shirt's too tight, or wow, I ate a lot for lunch, I feel like I really need to unbutton my pants, but I can't do that, you're going to feel really uncomfortable. And so just make sure that you feel really great about it. It doesn't have to be a great, this crazy professional photo whatsoever.
Okay. I think that might give a lot of people a sigh of relief, thinking that they needed to go out and get some, like hire the professional photographers, spend the money and get those for all of their profiles.
No, and actually, I'll just go ahead and tell you, the first time that I had a quote professional photo was because I had a photo shoot during the South by Southwest thing when I was their video host for Chevy. So there was this big photo shoot that we did with just they had given me a Corvette for a week, and so I was there to help promote that I was doing this, all this other stuff. So we did photos with that, everything. So my photo is still from 2012. Thankfully, after having, that was, yes, I'd already had Chase and now I have Carson. Thankfully, I didn't, blow up, to be like the size of a house or something. So it's still very, it still represents me. So that's the other thing to remember, is that make sure that it is current.
Yes.
That
Yes.
it actually looks like you. That's fine if you want to have a photo from a couple years ago, but you just have to remember that if I go out somewhere, is somebody going to be able to look at my profile photo and be able to scan a room and find me?
Yeah, totally. So let me ask another question, and this is kind of one of those that might, I don't know if this will offend anyone or not, but your profile photo on Facebook, or maybe even Twitter, I sometimes see it on Twitter, putting your children's photos as your own photo, as your profile photo for things. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm laughing because I'm like, I don't want to offend anybody. I personally don't, and again, it's just because I'm like, you know what? Yes, my children are, of course, very much a part of who I am, and then they're also a huge part of my online personality. And the reason that actually I bring that up, I'm going to pause for one quick second, just speaking of photos and putting photos out there. There is somebody that I know, and she's just a very, very well-respected person in the industry. She is well known for user-generated content. She does, content marketing, and is just absolutely amazing. It's one person that I completely look up to. She does not put out any photos, none, like barely even her child's name online. And so that, if that's a decision that you want to make, there's nothing wrong with that. And so the other thing you just have to remember is just make that decision and be done with it. It's just, you can't keep like flip-flopping all around. And so there's that part of it. So just think about that as you are building your personal brand and trying to figure out, that percentage that you want to say, here's my professional self, here's my personal stuff. So there's all of that. So going back to the whole thing, the reason that I do not do that is because people are wanting to talk to me, and I want to connect with people, and I want them to feel comfortable that whenever they are either searching for me or I have friend requested them, that they're not like, okay, wow, who's the baby? I have no idea. So your name, of course, is attached to it, but again, I don't know. I just, like I said, I really hope that I'm not offending anybody, but
Well, hey, that's why I want to. I know a lot of people have questions like this, and
yeah.
it's if that is talked about. So let's just put it out there and see. I mean,
Yeah.
and you're right. I mean, it's about you. Now, I don't necessarily see any problems with photos of you with your kids in as maybe like your Facebook profile photo, but when you're just putting up your children's photo as your profile photo and people can't see your face and you're trying to build an audience or something, that's a little confusing.
It is. Yeah.
Well, and you know, one of the things that I studied in grad school for my thesis was all about how people build credibility specifically online. And when I studied all of these entrepreneurs who had these huge audiences and followings online, one of the key things that these people are doing is being transparent and showing signs of self-disclosure, meaning they are disclosing the personal side of their life. And that is a really, really important thing that I think a lot of people are missing out on when it comes to building their presence online, because it happens so naturally when we have face-to-face interactions. You know, we have the chit-chat and we have the small talk. We don't have that online, and so a lot of people breeze right over that stuff, and we just kind of, you know, consciously and subconsciously, when we're in live interactions, leak that stuff out, you know, about having kids and about, you know, just the weather, what our hobbies are. We don't really do that unless we're deliberate about it online. And
Right.
I want people to know, just because of the research that I've put into it and studied, it is incredibly important that you are deliberate about sharing aspects of your personal life or the behind the scenes stuff with your audience if you're trying to build it as an entrepreneur, because the more people know about you, the more trust they feel they have in you. So I definitely am a strong believer in a good blend of both. Doesn't have, I mean, not a lot, you know, I'm not self-disclosing everything clearly, but people want to see those like more casual, candid photos.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that's, the other part of, the reason that I kind of put in the whole like craft your identity, because the other part is you also have to make sure, and I'm sure I'm probably talking to all the different points that we're gonna cover in here, but it's just, as you can tell, it's a topic that both I'm passionate about, Shauna's passionate about, and I think we could probably sit here and talk for a really long time about what we have done. But the other thing is you also have to make sure that you have a filter. That's something that I sometimes struggle with, because there might be something that I'm like, man, this person that I'm dealing with is just awful, and I want to go out there and like make a joke about it, but I don't. And the reason that I don't is because, is that helping anybody else? No. Is it providing great leadership for anybody else? No. And so, what is that going to say about me? If is this something that I'd want to get on a stage and put up on a huge screen out to a whole bunch of people, and I can stand on stage and they can look at me in the eye? Do I want to say this? And so I think that's something that you also have to figure out. That I know a ton of people that have no filter, and they're very professional. They are well known in their industry, and that's completely up to them. That's completely up to them. And so you just have to make sure that you decide what you're going to do. And I will make jokes. I don't want anyone to think that I don't like to have fun, or I'm a prude or anything like that. Like, heck yes, I love to make jokes, and I love to laugh at myself. I love to laugh with other people. But again, it's just having to figure out, if I'm really upset about something, for me to go on a complete rant over a brand, and keep tagging them in it, I mean, it must be really bad. So if you guys would ever see that from me, it's serious business.
Watch out.
I know. So, and I know that I was just looking at the comments as we were talking, and so I know that there was a question on one of the slides. So I can always go back, and please, at the end, we can go over questions. So just keep them, and I'm happy to go back wherever you guys need. So there's 5 strategies that I know that, again, it's one of those things where if I could kind of put this up as the things that I would pay attention to, these are it. So we're going to go through each one. So if you're taking notes, I noticed, like I said, somebody was taking notes and missed something on another slide. Each one of these we'll go over. So the first one is connect, not collect. And this is the whole point of, I'm so sick and tired of people that are just literally trying to collect followers. They're trying to say, oh my gosh, like I only have 200 followers, or I only have 50. What can I do to get to 2,000? And the thing that I would say is, do not worry about it. I know that some people that are just starting out, they're going to look at the followers that I have or the followers that Shauna has and say, well, holy moly, I want to get to the place that they're at. And
you know what they don't know is we're like tweeting like every spare moment because we're addicts.
Right. And so that, that's the other part about it is, and that's where, I really want to say that Shauna and I were talking about this on the phone this week, and just the whole point that build it from scratch as much as possible. And the reason that I say that, a couple different reasons. So taking it from me working with brands. So again, I built everything from scratch, and making sure that those people that I am following and that I'm talking to and whatnot, I am actually connecting with those people. I'm not just saying like, oh, cool, you know what, if I follow 20 people a day, let's see, if half of those follow me, then I will have, I don't do the math and try to say, hey, I want to try to get to this amount. And I see in the chat, it's definitely quality over quantity, for sure. So, it's just that type of thing. So as you are growing that following, and going back to why I say this is because as I work with brands, this is something that they pay attention to. So a brand might say, okay, cool, you have this many subscribers on YouTube, or you have this many followers on Pinterest. So, okay, they are doing the math, and they're trying to say, this is the amount of engagement that we would expect from somebody with this following. And so that's something that you have to remember, because if you sit there and you start thinking like, wow, I'm going to jump up my numbers, I'm going to go and buy followers, and I'm going to do all of this kind of stuff. Well, sure, your numbers might look really good, but then if you are working with a brand or you're doing something, if nobody's talking to you and nobody's engaging with you and nobody is, quote, selling what you're, if nobody's buying what you're selling, then there's a problem. And so that's where you have to say like, okay, what can I do to make sure that I'm actually connecting with these people? So, follow people that matter to you. Follow people that you want to talk to. And so your network is going to matter a ton. I would not be doing anything that I'm doing today without my network. I'm always able to reach out when I need help. And those people, because they know that I've been genuine, they are willing to help out any way that they can.
Absolutely. And I think that people, they know. If I go to your Twitter handle and all I see is you putting out content, but I don't see a single mention to anyone, and I can't find one, in the past week of your timeline, I don't want to follow you. Like, you're not talking to anyone. You're just broadcasting, and that's not what this is about.
Exactly. So just make sure that, again, don't play the numbers game. I think that you're going to be better off that you don't, and just make sure that it's definitely about the quality and it's about the networking, because that's what's going to matter later.
And let me be totally transparent with you all about this, because, having a large Twitter following is, A, I've been on it for years, and B, I have an addiction, and C, I strongly believe in the Reciprocity Rule. And across most social platforms that are out there, when you go to follow people, and you should be following people of interest, you shouldn't just be throwing things against the wall to see if they stick. You should be going to, other blogs that might be synonymous with your brand and following their followers, because those are the types of people you want paying attention to you. When you follow people, there's, a reciprocation percentage that are going to follow back to you. So that's been the way that I've been able to grow my following across different platforms, is being really active in going out there and following people. Now, some people would say, and there's absolutely no way that I am paying attention to the 18,000 people that I'm following on Twitter. There's not. And, 2 years ago when I was really heavy into this, like follow, reciprocate rule, I was just following anyone and everyone. And I definitely got to the point where I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. This is just stupid. I mean, I'm following these people that are just spamming up my news feed, and it's taken me 2 years to slowly like remove a lot of those people, and I still am catching them in my news feed. So it's like I just candidly, I 100%, 150% agree that it's about quality and relationships, but I will say that numbers do matter to people, and they do open doors for you.
Yeah, yeah, and just pay attention to to what you're doing. Exactly like what Shauna just mentioned. So it's just um, gonna make a big difference in the long run.
Absolutely. And just make sure, like I said, I think the best tactic is when you go, if you really want to get aggressive in following people in the hopes that you get follows back, do it the right way. And the right way is, really doing your homework and connecting with brands that are synonymous with your target audience and connect with those people. Don't just go out there and pick Miley Cyrus's Twitter handle and start following everyone that follows I mean, that's going to do you absolutely no good, and in fact, it's going to hurt your credibility.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the next one that I know we were kind of talking about earlier is developing your main hub. So making sure that for me, I started with a blog, and this was my, and this is still the same thing for me. So my main hub is stephaniewonderlin.com. So on that, it links to everything else. So you can find, Pinterest and Instagram, and of course my YouTube videos and everything else. So that is my main hub. Now, do you want to do a whole website? If you don't, have the time, don't have the resources, whatever the case may be, you don't feel comfortable doing it, there are so many easy ways around this. And so you can do something really simple like about.me, which is free. I do know that, yes, there's the paid version, but I still have an about.me. It works great. It's, again, that might not be my main hub, but yet it's out there because, hey, we all do the SEO game. So about.me is one. You can do something really easy on Tumblr. Any one of those parts. I mean, you can go WordPress. I'm on Squarespace, for example. So that can be a great way to start. And again, it does not have to be this completely overblown, crazy website. So don't get stuck on that.
Yeah, and I was saying you could even do Pinterest. If Pinterest is your show and that's what you're really into, it could be your Pinterest profile. I mean, people are doing amazing things and growing massive audiences on Pinterest alone.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So that's that's something else. And the other part is just own what you're doing. Don't be scared if you are able to be on all of the different channels. Awesome, rock it out, enjoy it, and just keep on going because it's a lot of fun. You meet tons of new people, but if there is some way to kind of make one of those sites, maybe your main hub, then that's perfectly fine too. So then the next one is to be purposeful in what you share. I say this just because this whole notion of, oh, well, whatever I read, I'm just going to go out and share. I mean, make sure that there's actually a purpose to it, and as you are developing your brand, people are going to know you in terms of what you share. So am I out there sharing every single quiz that I take on BuzzFeed? No, because that's probably not going to put out a very good personal brand for myself. So people make sure, I think when people look at me, and this is something we'll talk about later, they know me for, putting out technology articles, things on social and content marketing, and things that make life easy, so quick life hacks, whether that's, something on technology or an app or any of that. That's what really I know that I'm known for out there. And of course, a lot of people know that, yes, I do share a lot of photos of my children. And the reason that I do that is because another hobby of mine is taking photographs. So people also know me for some of the different things that I've been doing with GoPro. So all those different things. Again, everything that you are putting out there defines what you are doing. So you just have to make sure to have a purpose in everything that you're doing.
You know what is so crazy about this, just as like a tangible example? It says in my Twitter bio that I have listed that I'm a professional snacker because I just sit at my desk and I don't eat meals, I just snack and eat all day long. And since having that in my bio, we have been sent snack boxes. This week alone, I got chocolate covered strawberries. I got another thing of chocolate. We got 48 cans of sugar-free soda from some organic company today, all from Twitter because it says professional snacker in my bio.
Okay, well, I'll make sure to put that I'm a big fan of diamonds and
I know, it's crazy.
That is too funny. Yeah, so again, pay attention to what you put in your bio. That's definitely a true story. So people do read it. Associate yourself with other strong brands. So not only, and I say brands not in companies, but in terms of other people as well. So of course, I am completely honored to be connected with Best Kept Self and with Shauna and everybody that I know that they have helped connect me with. And that's just making sure that, again, you are who you hang around with. And if you're hanging around with people who are completely negative, they're just saying awful stuff, and, it's going to start to seep into who you are. And so you have to make sure that you are associating yourself with good people, because it's the whole, even what you read, what music you listen to, what topics, speeches you're listening to, it all matters, because it's going to all start making a difference whenever you start just doing daily things. So just have to pay attention to what you are associating yourself with. So my last one on this is to reinvent. And the reason that I talk about this is, again, when we were talking earlier, how did I get started? So I started doing the whole socialite marketing, and then I noticed that people were thinking that I was an agency. So I was thinking to myself, I'm like all super cute and have a little cartoon figure and look at me. And then people are like, oh, are you an agency? And I'm like, oh, no. So, well, shoot, that's not going to work. So then I'm like, well, I'll just do, Stephanie Wonderlin and just have all of that. And it was, really just heavily focused on social media. Well, as we all know, how many people out there are quoting all these articles about social media and trying to say like they're the new social media ninja out there. So the thing is, I've been doing a lot of speaking, especially to students, and people say, well, how do I get into social media? And I'm like, you know what? That was the game like 3 years ago. You don't just get into social media anymore. Now you have to figure out, okay, what am I going to specialize in? Are you going to specialize in analytics? What are you going to specialize? Maybe content marketing, user-generated content. Those are a lot of different things that are, the big things right now. And so you have to make sure that, okay, if I'm out there and there's this huge, broad range, you have to specialize in something and figure that out. And if that makes you help reinvent yourself and just kind of keep moving your brand along, that's okay. You're not completely changing who you are. I'm not going to go out tomorrow and say, guess what? I love my dogs, and so now I'm going to start talking about pet health. That doesn't make sense, and so that's not the type of reinvention that I'm talking about. And so, for me, again, then I went into Tweetheart TV, and so that was really focusing on apps, because think about probably 3 years ago, how many apps were you downloading a day, and you were learning about all these new apps that do all these crazy things? Well, think about the last time you downloaded an app. It's not happening as often. And so as those types of things were happening, the apps weren't as popular anymore, and I was kind of, quote, ahead of the curve with what I was doing with Tweetheart TV and making it this interactive kind of like choose your own story thing. It worked great on a desktop where I'd say, hey, which story do you want to listen to me talk about? So I'd like point on the screen. And again, if you want to make fun of me later, definitely go to my YouTube channel and watch. So you would go and you'd choose which story you wanted to, which video you wanted to watch. Well, that was all great if you were on a desktop, but that didn't work if you were on a mobile device. And so if you look at your analytics, So as we talked about a little earlier, where I said, to definitely measure and just see how things are going. Well, to me, everything was going great, and it was providing a ton of attention for me just because it was different. But yet, I wasn't winning at the game because over half of my traffic was coming from mobile. So that's not going to work either because, as we all know, mobile is ruling over desktop. And so that was where I'm like, okay, well, I have to kind of reinvent myself again. And at that time, I was going through a divorce, and my ex-husband was the one who helped me start all of my videos because he would record, I would put everything together, he would edit, I would put out, I would promote. Well, that all changed, and that was one thing where I've told people I had to put on my big girl panties and say, okay, you know what? If I'm passionate about this and I really want to do it, well, then I have to figure out how I'm going to do it. So I purchased all of the equipment. I purchased all the lights, purchased editing equipment, made sure my computer was up to speed of what it needed to be. I had to teach myself how to film. I had to teach myself how to edit. And I had to teach myself how to get it all done while being a single mom. And so, again, you have to make sure that as your brand is developing, you have to make sure that you are staying true to what you are passionate about. And so I left from doing Tweetheart TV because that just really wasn't my focus anymore because I got married. Again, I have a brand new, beautiful baby. Chase is 5. He's growing. I'm figuring out that I'm putting out more about my family and more about what is making my life easier. So I'm like, well, you know what? That's kind of what it was about before because I was talking about apps that were making people's lives easier, but what am I doing now? And what's a great way for me to share that? Well, let's reinvent my videos. And so now it's on to It's a Wonderful Life. And I've left it there because it's about me. It's about what's making my life easier. My kids, I'm making sure that I'm talking about what I'm doing with them because, again, if it's making my life easier, I know that I can help other people. And so that's kind of how that got all started with GoPro, is because they are looking for lifestyle content, and I am, just wanting to have fun and do that. And so, I did the thing I put a GoPro camera in my wedding bouquet, and so that has created a ton of press for us. And so NBC News picked it up. A couple weeks ago, the Wall Street Journal, they talked to me a couple weeks ago, but their story has not been published yet, and fingers crossed that it does. And so I don't really do that for attention. It's more that, hey, you know what? This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I want to do. And so even though I am the exact same person, my brand has continually changed with my life and who I am. So it's just one of those things that still stay true to yourself. But pay attention and make sure that your brand is always consistent of who you are at the moment, for sure. And so it's just, kind of going across there. It's just really opening up those doors to say, well, where can your brand take you? And it's completely up to you. And there's tons of things that you can do. And I'm always happy to answer questions and try to figure out what I can do to maybe even help you in terms of, hey, this is what I like doing, but I don't know where to start. I always love talking about those types of things, so reach out, let me know, and Shauna and I always have a blast talking about that. So I would love to open it up for questions. I know we're running a little bit late.
Our calls have normally been like 9:20-ish that we're getting off, so we have plenty of time, and I have a few things that I want to tap into as well. But first, Gina's got a question about, if you're going to be consistent on the blog, what do you do if you don't have anything relevant or purposeful to talk about?
You know what? I would definitely say that I don't think that that's actually possible. The reason that I say that is repurpose something else. I know that I have a ton of articles. I try to play the game with myself of like, oh, I'm going to open up all these tabs and I'm going to save them and read them later. No, I probably do both. I save some, and then I also save some up in the tabs. I have so many things that I'm supposed to be writing about on my blog, and If you all go, you can see how not active it really is right now. But anyway, repurpose some of that stuff. If it's something that you have enjoyed reading, but maybe you have an opinion on, just link to it in your blog and just kind of say, hey, the other day I just read about, the way that women are talked about in the workplace in terms of family and can they do it all, and here's my opinion, and take that article, take quotes out of it, give your opinions. Of course, please, dear God, link back to the article. Don't claim anything as your own. And do it that way. And so it gives you, even if you just write like a paragraph about it, it's at least putting something out, and it's at least putting something on your own channel that is showing what you are about.
Absolutely. And I agree. I don't know if it is possible to not have something relevant or purposeful. I mean, especially if you have a blog, you started it for a purpose, whether it's your own business or not. I mean, you've got to have something to say. I mean, bottom line, especially if you have your own company, you better have something to say. You better know why you're in business, and you better know what that platform is that you're standing on. Best kept self, we're standing here because we believe you need to put yourself first. That's what we have to say. So that's what our content is all related to. So you really need to know, what is it that you want to say, and then you got to say it, and you got to say it, and you got to say it, and you got to say it over and over and over, and that's your brand. And you have to be very deliberate about, kind of conceiving that idea and figuring out exactly what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And then I don't know, Stephanie, if you're seeing these. So she's saying it's okay to converse about a topic more than once. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. I mean, it just, it shows your passion. So definitely go for it, for sure.
And the thing is, too, you almost have to say things online multiple times, depending on what channels they're on, because 9 times out of 10, people won't catch it the first time.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm glad you brought that up, because I had to get over that. And am I completely, quote, healed from that? No. Because I still put things out, even like to promote for this. I'm just kind of like, okay, I shared that like 2 hours ago. Is it bad if I like do another thing? And it's really like, what? People aren't staring at Twitter like, what did Stephanie Wonderlin say today?
As much as we wish that we were, like.
It's like, what? I have to get over that. And you know what? If you are wanting to promote something, just go for it. Because, if you want to do it, I mean, don't do it like every, 30 minutes. That's a little much. Make sure that you put some stuff in between it. This is the beauty of scheduled posts. Put some stuff in between it, still promote, and just make sure that you are not just talking about yourself all the time. But that's the other part is, well, if you are building a personal brand, you are going to talk about yourself in ways that you can help either share helpful things for other people or talk about what you're doing, and that's perfectly fine. And you have to make sure you find that mix of how often that you share things, but you do also have to remember that people aren't staring at your profile all day long, and so the times that they're actually going to notice that you shared that like 6 times in a day is actually pretty rare.
Yeah, and honestly, that would be the biggest mistake that I see with people, is them not sharing their content enough. So you've spent all this time crafting a blog article, and then you put it out maybe twice. That's not enough. So like, we still promote blogs from 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You've got to put it out there more than one. If you don't feel like you're annoying people, then you're not doing it enough. You gotta feel like you're annoying people. Like, that's kind of the rule. Like, you gotta be annoying, and you're not going to be, but you've got to feel like, okay, I've put this out there a lot. And even still, it's still probably not enough. I mean, there's a balance, but typically women with self-promotion, we don't want to be annoying, we don't want to be braggarts, so we have a little bit more difficult time with this than men do.
Exactly. And I want to make sure I'm seeing a lot of the questions about videos and equipment. The thing that I talked about earlier, make sure, I mean, you could do it in your house. I mean, for crying out loud, if you all are so inclined and so bored, I really suggest drink a lot of wine before you go back.
That's why I'm here.
And watch these videos. But anyway, go back just because I'm going to prove to you that not everything is perfect. Go back because I used to do a ton of things on green screen. Green screen now is like, don't ever do green screen. It's not good because now people are very, they really want to see things, you know, as they are. And so film in one of your rooms. Like I always film up in our game room. Is it the most beautiful quote set? No. But it's in my house. People know, it just kind of gives off that impression that I'm a real person. I don't, you know, have a set that I'm, you know, I'm doing. I mean, look at all these, you know, YouTube big, you know, the huge YouTubers out there, whether they're beauty or fashion or some of these, they're really, I don't know, just the ones that have millions of followers. No one's doing green screen, so get that out of your mind for sure. Be real, be yourself. The biggest things to focus on are making sure that the film looks good, so you look good online, so just the look of it overall. And then make sure your lighting is good and your sound is good, because if they can't see you or they can't hear you, it's done.
So what exactly, in terms of equipment that you bought, if they have the money and they want to go all in, what is a reasonable, you know, what sort of camera, and then what sort of lighting are you, like what equipment did you actually buy?
Okay, so I actually started out with a Canon 60D, and I'm gonna like put it down here just because I know it's kind of, so that was the first camera that I bought. It's fantastic, beautiful camera, amazing, but the problem with that camera is that it doesn't autofocus. So if you are doing a one-person show, that's not going to be good. And so I've been struggling with that just because you have to consistently focus it. So make sure that your camera can autofocus during videos. So autofocus is a huge one. So I just bought a Canon Rebel T5i. So that's the new one that I have. It's really great. It's really, really fantastic camera. It has a great lens, again, that doesn't make noise when it autofocuses. That's another thing to watch out for. So that's a DSLR. I would suggest that get a set of box lights if you want to. But if you want to go on the cheap route, and I have totally done this so many times, film during the day if you can. Sit by a window. Open the window up completely, like, you know, don't have the blinds on it. Open the window up, and you're actually going to have the best light if it comes from natural light. So if you can't do that, so yes, I film a lot at night because my children are in bed, nobody's crying or hanging on me. So you then would want to do box lights, and you can get a set of box lights from Amazon for maybe like $300. It does sound like a lot, but that's actually a really good price, and they don't have to be, you know, crazy professional. At least get one or two. Usually they come in a set of 3, and that's probably the best thing to do, just to make sure that you're lit on both sides. So there's that. Make sure you have a mic. That would be really important because the sound isn't always going to be the greatest just from your camera alone. If you are in a small room and it's only you, yes, it might not be too bad, but it's just making sure that that you can hear. So test it out. The mic that I have, in fact, it's sitting right here. It's a Rode mic, and this just connects straight on your camera. So that's what I use for sound, and then I edit in Final Cut Pro. And so that's something that you know, you can download. Other people still use iMovie. It's completely fine. I just wanted more options, and so that's why I went with Final Cut Pro. So try it out. It definitely has a learning curve to it, but again, trust me, if I can do it, you can do it. So I do not have this crazy private talent or anything, so anyone can learn.
What would you say is one thing, whether it's a campaign or a tactic, something that you deliberately did, not something that just happened, but something that you consciously thought of in terms of like a marketing strategy or, like I said, a tactic that was successful for you, whether it was in terms of gaining a following or led to some sort of opportunity or a relationship? Can you think of anything that you can like give us as an example?
Yeah, Tweetheart TV was probably my biggest thing, and that was me. Actually, I was alone one weekend, and I was reading a book, and it was gosh, I think it's How to Become Your Own Boss. And even though no, I'm still not my own boss all of the time, it still had a ton of really great ideas. And it was just ideas in terms of what are you passionate about? Just go for it. If something is keeping you up at night, go for it. And so this was my whole thing where I'm just like, oh, I'm so tired of just, I don't want to have just my name on something, because if I wanted to grow a show even into something bigger, it can't just have my name on it. So that was what was really bugging me for the longest time. And so that's when I came up with Tweetheart TV. Well, at the time, of course, that was my biggest platform still has to be Twitter. And I adore Twitter. I am obsessed, just like Shauna. And so that's where I'm like, oh, Tweetheart. Because if a lot of people, know me and have been around me, I really try to not be a grump, and I try to be, just really outgoing and sweet and friendly. And so I'm just kind of like, it's a fun, cute name. Why not? So anyway, that's where Tweetheart TV came from, because of course it'd be about social media. And the biggest part that I wanted to do is make it where it was interactive. And so that's where, I had to figure out what are we going to do. And so it was really cool because we were able to put up videos inside of a video. And again, I used the annotations from YouTube and started playing around with that. And that caught a ton of attention, because annotations at that time was not anything that people were really taking advantage of like they are today. That's a huge part of YouTube today, but before, nobody was really paying attention to them. So again, it was one of those like, I'm going to find something that nobody else is really doing and taking advantage of. And so that was my biggest thing, is just because it really grew my following, and really grew in terms of, hey, it's Stephanie Wonderlin. She does videos. She talks about things that are happening in social and new apps and all of this other stuff. That really, again, it was just something completely different. And that's where I think everything just blew up for me.
When I think of, because that was kind of the time period that I met you, and so I've kind of seen the evolution from Tweetheart to, what it is now, and that journey. And I mean, it was very, like, if there were three words to describe you to other people during that time period, it was video, tech, and Twitter. Like, those were the three things that, like, you were known for. And
Yeah.
I think, I think those would be, maybe not your specific top three, but I bet they would be in the top 10 list of things that you'd want people to recognize you for. So I
Yeah.
think, for everyone else, we suggest this just for clients in terms of perception and personal branding face to face, what are kind of the three things that you want people known for? I mean, we have our list and our target audience for Best Kept Self, and across our team, we kind of have this almost like a brand manual, like this is the message, and then this is the specific woman we're talking to, and here's the three words that we want to be known for. And if whether you paste them like at the top of your computer or up on a cork board, like, what would those three words be that you'd want people to describe you, and you just talk about those three things and make sure that all your messaging and communication falls in line with those three things.
Yeah, absolutely. I see the quick question too on personal sources of inspiration, motivation. I talk about her. I don't really talk about her a lot online, but I think whenever I feel like I have this question, I bring this person up a ton, and it's actually Ivanka Trump. And the reason that I feel like she has been a motivation for me is, I greatly respect where she came from, and yes, well, I already know what some people are thinking, like, well, of course she's going to be, famous and have all these great things because of who her parents are, and, especially her dad. She was given that job. Well, that's it. That's something that I actually go back. So take a look at her book. I thought that it was really great, because also, of course, nothing like the Trump status whatsoever, but my parents had a large company, and I worked with them for a while, and it was just that whole point, and this is where I think I really get my work ethic from, in terms of yes, you might work for your family, but if you work for your family, my parents always had the rule of you're going to work harder than anybody else in this company because that is what we expect of you. And that's something that, I think I'm really glad that I had early on, where get into something and you're going to work hard at it and it's going to be noticed. And even though you are working with your family, so this is, kind of where the whole quote connection, like I said, even though no Trump status over here, it was still that I respect what her family did, because she talked about how nothing was given to her. She had to go to school. She had to get the good grades. Yes, did she have more than other people had? Yeah, okay, she did, but these things were still expected of her. And the opportunities that she has, yes, of course, are greater than some of the opportunities that any of us will ever have. But her work ethic, she's also known for being a wonderful, she has separate businesses and she does very well at them, as well as being a wife and a mother. And so she is very, very successful. And so, I know something that I sometimes struggle with, and of course, I think I have to take a step back and just say, you know what, it's not what other people think, it's how I feel. And, it's that whole thing of, can you be a wife, a mom, either owning your own business or working for somebody else? Can you do it all? And yeah, absolutely. I think that you can, and you have to figure out where that balance is. And that's completely different for everybody, for everybody. And you have to figure that out. And so again, it's just, I look up to her, and I think that she does a great job, especially with personal branding, because everything that she puts out, and you'll notice that it all looks the exact same. She always has the exact same type of messaging that's out there. She's not negative against things. She is out there as a leader and as somebody that, people are going to look up to. And so that's something where, no, I will never be an Ivanka Trump, but it's one of those times where you say, you know what, that's a lady who does have it all. Does she have extra help? Sure. But she's very consistent about what she does. And I think that she uses her platform very, very wisely, and she just does a great job. So someone probably different than you would think of, but she's great.
We're big fans over here, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we will go ahead and wrap up because we're almost hitting at 9:30. We, as you can tell, Stephanie and I could sit here, and we have, prior to this, which is what got this webinar going in the first place. We could talk about this forever. We are more than happy to just hang out for a few moments. If anyone wants to type any burning questions in, we will surely answer those. But Stephanie, I know, has already put out there that if you want to connect with her and talk to her, feel free. We decided to test you all and not put up her contact info, because if you don't know how to get in touch with her after being on this webinar, then you've missed out. So it is very easy to find Stephanie Wonderlin, but she's more than happy to chat with you. Steph, if you want to just kind of close things out on your end.
Sure. I have absolutely enjoyed it. I so appreciate everyone taking the time to do this, because it is your personal time with, maybe you wanted to get some more work done, you wanted to relax and just hang out and enjoy the time alone or the time with your family. So I just greatly appreciate it. I have enjoyed having this opportunity, and again, if there's anything that I can do, please reach out. I'm hopefully available at any time. I might not have a ton of time to spend with, hours on the phone or anything, but please understand that if I can jump on the phone with you for 30 minutes, for an hour, I'm actually really happy to do that. That's something that, I kind of had written down as a note, and that is, another thing that I always try and do is I have a conversation every single week, whether it's in person over a coffee or somebody on the phone or Skype. Connect with somebody, whether you just need to connect with them again or somebody brand new. Try and do that every single week. And it will be amazing how your network will grow, and you'll realize the different people that you have around you.
That's awesome advice. One time, there's probably a name for this. tidbit of wisdom, but I just read this a few weeks ago about after every conversation or seminar or webinar or conference or just important conversation that you might have with someone, you take a few minutes afterwards and you write down kind of the bullet points of what you took away from it. And if you consistently did that, like made it a habit on a day-to-day basis, people are just raving about all of the benefits that you can get from that practice. Makes you a better listener, makes you a better leader. It really helps you absorb that information, and what great wisdom to sit and collect inside and out. So being able to hop on the phone with Stephanie, you guys, is worth its weight in gold. If you have any questions, I would take her up on that. That's an awesome opportunity to get some, some free mentorship for sure. Thank you for offering that, Steph.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's always fun to meet, new people. And again, you realize that everybody, even though you might call me with a question, I know I'm already going to learn something from you as well. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I always enjoy talking with other people is I can always learn something, and I know that's going to happen.
Very cool. Well, our next webinar over wine, again, these happen monthly, is Wednesday, November 19th. I will share that info about the next subject later. Please tweet us. Please share your ideas. We are lining up the calendar for the new year already, believe it or not, for new subjects, new topics. So we're looking for your feedback in what you want to see featured, or some types of expertise, or what sort of discussion topics do you really want to bring to the table, because we're looking to provide you with what you need. So please tweet us or shoot us a message with any ideas you want to see in 2015 in terms of webinars over wine. We're going to keep on doing these. And please keep in touch. Thank you so much for being on the call. We so appreciate you guys being here. And now that Steph's also given us the pass to go on our website, and you guys hopefully have been drinking wine all night, go check out her videos. And I guarantee you're going to be super impressed. She's being very humble, but they're incredibly impressive, even from the very beginning. So you guys have a great night, and thank you so much.
Bye, guys.